This is T2T Network, and welcome to New York Giants Corner. Didn't work out the way I wanted. Here's my new wonderful intro. Hey everybody, I pushed the wrong button there. I was really practicing and trying to get that new intro to come in smoothly, and of course I messed it up because I've got so many buttons over here to push. I accidentally took off my banner. Anyway, good morning everybody. I apologize. I usually do the show Wednesday nights. Couldn't do it last night, just had a lot going on, and so doing it bright and early Thursday morning. And this is a report, in my opinion, on the first week of New York Giants training camp here in 2023, and just what a difference a year makes, huh? Last year there was so many unknowns going into training camp, new coaching staff. Daniel Jones's contract had not been picked up. Was Saquon going to be, rookie Saquon, or was it going to be Saquon from the year before that, which where the guy was still recovering kind of from his knee surgery and not looking like the same player. There were so many unknowns, but I think we as Giants fans, I know myself, came to this training camp super pumped after this incredible offseason that we just had, and just looking forward to so much and looking to see, at least in the first week, what questions can kind of be answered or at least make us feel good, right? And there was a lot of good vibes coming out of this camp. And I want to give it. Speaking of the off season, I want to give a shout out to Chris the Entertainer. Thank you. He just recorded a few nights ago. He recorded an episode with Justin and I on the Giants off season breakdown. Did a great job. That video is actually dropping tomorrow morning. I'm sorry, tomorrow afternoon. That is Friday afternoon at 4 p.m. So look forward to that. It's a great interview with Chris. We had a great talk and just a really good time. So 4 o'clock tomorrow, that will be dropping in the afternoon, and look forward to it. I loved having Chris on. And Chris, if you're watching, thank you so much for coming on. I and we really, really appreciate it. So before I get into week one of the training camp for the Giants, let me get the bells and whistles out of the way. If you can, please hit that like and subscribe button. Give us that 5-star Apple review. All that stuff really helps us grow the brand. We really appreciate it. Where you can find our shows: Apple Podcast, YouTube, Facebook, Podbean, and Spotify. Toiletstotitles.com, our wonderful website, has all of our videos, articles. We cover pretty much anything to do with football. We cover NFL football, fantasy football, which is our original bread and butter here at Toilets to Titles. We cover the NFL draft, and we cover NCAA football. That's really handled by our sister network, the CFB Nation. That is at the College Football Nation, at the CFB Nation. We have a great crew over there who does a phenomenal job covering college football. These guys really know their stuff. If you want news updates or if you want to learn more about college football, check out at the CFB Nation. They have plenty of shows as well. They are our sister network here at T2T Network. Love those guys. They are phenomenal. Honestly, you got to check them out if you want more and better information on college football. Patreon.com/toilets to titles. If you go there, you can learn how you can further support the show, or I should say the network. I want to say thank you to our current Patreon supporters. We appreciate you appreciating us. Last but not least, we have our own chat in Gilded, the Gilded app. Reach out to us about joining our private chat in Gilded. We have constant football conversations. We're constantly running mock drafts in the Gilded chat. So I think George Reed runs like 3 mock drafts a week at this point. So anyone who's in the Gilded Chat can join. Please feel free. We're always talking football during the fantasy football season. If you have any questions like start, sit advice, come in the chat. You've got plenty of very knowledgeable fantasy football players in there who will be happy to address any questions or any concerns you have. And that's it, guys. Let's get on to the bread and butter, the content over here. Training camp week 1. There is a lot of good storylines. Oh, there's some storylines too, like you'd expect. I think in any training camp, like people, some players just taking longer to adapt than you would hope or than you'd like. But that comes with a caveat too. Quite a few of the players who are like kind of question marks at this point, and maybe didn't shine in week 1 are the younger players. And we'll get to them in a little bit. But I want to start off with the players who are turning heads so far this camp. And I want to start off with this. Let's start off with the offense. And my lead in will be this. I mentioned the entertainer last night, about 7 hours ago. He basically made the point. Someone had asked a question. Hey, in a tweet, someone had asked me a question. Hey, could we possibly be? Is it possible that we could be a top 10 offense this year? And Entertainer had responded saying, "Why not? We've got Darren Waller, and we were top 15. We were. It may not have felt like it because we weren't an explosive offense last year, um, but we were actually very efficient in the red zone, and we were still a top 15 offense. Which compared to the year before that, what were we like 30th or 28th or something like that? I don't think we were any better than 28th. So last year we were top 15 offense last year, and that was really just with Saquon, Daniel Jones, and just not the best wide receivers. I mean, wide receivers that I like, but not necessarily a wide receiving core that you want to go to war with. But that is, that situation is definitely improved, and and really last year, like we were like top 5 or 7 in red zone efficiency last year. Our offense was excellent once we got to the red zone. The problem was in between. It was in between the 20s. That was the real problem. Was getting the ball down there because we didn't really have any deep play ability. We didn't have any deep throw ability, and it wasn't. A lot of people think it's Daniel Jones. I don't, and I think the front office and the head coach thinks it's not Daniel Jones because they retained him for $40 million a year. The problem was they didn't really have enough speed, and they just didn't have enough overall talent in the wide receiving core. That's been improved. I know we don't have a wide receiver 1 on the team, at least no one who's looking like they're going to necessarily claim that throne just yet. But it's definitely improved with Darren Waller not as a wide receiver, as a tight end, but he's pretty much the first person we're going to talk about here. But Darren Waller was an incredible addition. He's had a lot of success in the NFL. He is a serious top end threat, and so he's a big addition this year. Paris Campbell brings a lot of speed. We drafted Jalen Hyatt, who brings a lot of speed, and there's some others too, like Jamison Crowder, who can help out. These guys are they're not wide receiver 1s, but they're a lot of good quality depth, and these guys are fast. So then there's also Cole Beasley, who we just brought in too. So knock on wood, if our wide receiving core suffers some injuries, or an injury or two, it shouldn't decimate us like it has for like the past 4 or 5 years. We actually have depth. But the key thing for this offense taking the next step forward, even without a proven wide receiver 1 on this roster right now, is just improving the performance and efficiency between the 20s. I have no doubt that our red zone offense is going to continue to be top notch. I have no reason to believe otherwise. Just no reason to believe otherwise. But we've improved the receivers as a whole, including Darren Waller, where we should be able to move the ball down more efficiently in bigger chunk plays between the 20s, and that's going to help out a lot. So can we be a top 10 offense this year? I think we can. I really think we can. I mean, I don't think we're going to be an elite offense. I don't think we're going to be number 5. I do still think we're going to be 5, 6, 7 red zone efficiency. But overall, as an offense, I know we're going against very tough defenses this year. We have a very hard schedule. I get that. But I do think we're going to be very well improved on the offensive side of the ball as a whole. I wanted to lead in with that. So let's talk about the top. Let's lead off with the top performers in the first week of our training camp so far. We're going to start off with Darren Waller, the man. Okay, Darren Waller, so far, knock on wood, he's looking healthy. He is healthy, and he is been described as unguardable because he has been, regardless of what defensive back has been on Darren Waller. He's been unguardable. He's been fast. He's been catching everything. He's been going up to get the ball. Anything you could possibly ask from this guy, he's doing. He's been getting separation. Man, and it's like I didn't realize how tall this dude really is, but you see him on the field, and he looks like a giant. He looks like an absolute giant. I mean, I see defensive backs like, having to like leap up, it almost seeming like leap up like 4 feet to try to, you know, knock the ball away in front of this guy. And they just look like, they look like kids up against him, against Darren Waller. He is really huge, but he's been phenomenal. And if he's healthy, there's no reason to believe that he's not going to have a huge season for this team, and that the Giants' offense isn't going to be vastly improved just with Darren Waller alone. He's been phenomenal. Everything is advertised as long as he's healthy. Everything is advertised this first week in camp, and like I said, as long as he's healthy, there's no reason to believe, there's no reason to think otherwise that he won't have a phenomenal season for this team. Jalen Hyatt, our rookie wide receiver, third round pick out of Tennessee. A lot of concerns, and rightfully so, about his unpolished route running, and that's true. And listen, that's just part of the course for young wide receivers coming out of the draft. But Jalen Hyatt is a perfect example of that. The thing is that he has outstanding speed, almost unguardable speed. Almost. I'm saying, like, listen, yeah, it's hard to guard against speed, but when you're going up against experienced cornerbacks, they know how to deal with that. But Jalen Hyatt, he had like a rough first 1 or 2 days in camp. After that, he's been excellent. His speed, he's been working with the first team as well. His speed has been palpable. You can see it. You can see it on the videos coming out of training camp, just how fast he is. It's not just, and he does have long distance speed. It's not just that. It's his quick area. It's his small area quickness as well. That has been phenomenal. So it's exciting to see. And he made some really nice catches with his hands, obviously with his hands, but I just want to point out, he's never been known as a guy with bad hands anyway. He's actually known as a very good deep ball tracker. And that's what we need out of Jalen Hyatt. But I saw him making some really nice, tough contested catches on the sidelines as well. So that's great. So Jalen Hyatt seems to be coming along very, very nicely. I just bring this caveat. Just slow the roll on Jalen Hyatt a little bit. I'm excited about him too. Just saying, he's a third round pick. He is still raw. It's his first training camp, his first season, and I think he is probably going to be used, and maybe more than even I thought this year. Not that I thought he was going to be sidelined, but I thought maybe he wouldn't have all that many snaps this year, given that he is unpolished and we actually have depth at the wide receiving core. But you know what? He's been getting a good amount of working with the first team the last few days, and I think the Giants. I think Brian Dable and Mike Kafka are not going to be afraid to use this guy more than we, or I should say myself, thought. So I think he's going to be out there if he continues to play like he was playing the last few days. I'm not saying he's necessarily going to be a starting wide receiver, but he's going to be at least at the beginning of the season. But I think you're going to see him in quite a few packages. So really excited about Jalen Hyatt. Seems to be coming along very well. Stay healthy, Jalen. Stay healthy. Okay, Daniel Jones, our quarterback. All the reports are coming in, and I'm not surprised by this at all. Second year in the same offense, and it's a very good offense with very good coaches and an offense that makes sense. Coming in second training camp, all the reports are he looks comfortable in this offense. I forgot who it was. I think it might have been Dan Duggan. He sent out a tweet saying that he's never seen Daniel look this comfortable before in his short career with the Giants. And it shouldn't be a surprise. It's the second year, in a competent offense, and an offense that makes sense. And everything, what everyone's reporting is that he looks quick, decisive, comfortable. His reads have been quick. The ball out of his hand has had like extra urgency on it. And he's, like I said, he's always been an accurate quarterback. There's this fallacy out there, and it's just wrong that he's an inaccurate quarterback. That's never been the case. Whether it's short area of the field, medium area of the field, or deep, he's always been an accurate quarterback. That's never been a problem of his. Daniel Jones's biggest problem, I'd say, besides you know, uh, besides what used to be his lack of pocket presence, which greatly improved last year. I'm not really worried about that anymore. His pocket presence and pocket awareness was phenomenal last year. His biggest thing I'd say that he still had to work on was processing faster. And it's only training camp. It's only the first week of training camp. I get that. But compared to last year, when it came out, and it came out at the end of last season, that I think at least in the very beginning of training camp, Brian Dable had given the defense, given Wink Martindale all the plays they were going to run, like play for play, and the defense was completely blowing up the offense because they were testing Daniel Jones. It's not like that. Daniel is looking great in camp. Really happy to see. So again, the videos that I've seen, all the reports coming out of camp are Daniel Jones has looked quick, decisive, comfortable, and accurate. But don't be surprised about the accuracy part. That really shouldn't be your concern. Like I said, anything that you've heard about Daniel Jones, any concerns over accuracy, is just not true. But we do want to look for that quick processing. And so far, again, it's only week one. I'm not putting him in the Hall of Fame just yet, even though I love the guy. It's only week one, but so far, quick, decisive, and very, very comfortable in this offense. Great to hear. Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton, I saw a quote from Darius the other day saying that, he was working real hard this year. I think in the jugs machine, whatever, just catching ball passes from Daniel Jones or whomever on focus, just improving his own catching. Yes, that's been one weakness for Darius Slayton. And I've always liked Darius Slayton, and Daniel Jones and Darius have a really good rapport on the field. Even coming out of college, Darius is known as a quick deep ball threat player who can do other things too. He is a threat in the middle of the field when he gets separation. He is a threat. But his problem has been, big drops at the worst times. And Darius has made it a point to this offseason to improve that. So we'll see if that happens. I mean, that's one thing I think wide receivers have a hard time improving. Once they come into the NFL, once they're in the NFL, is their catching ability. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I think that's one of the harder things. It's almost kind of like you can improve your route running, you can improve in certain areas, but it's almost seemingly like with their hands that it's very, very hard to. It seems to me like that's like one of the hardest things to improve. It's almost kind of like when you come out of college in that aspect, that you are who you are. But Darius apparently has been working really hard this offseason to improve that. He says he wants to be known as a ball stopper. A ball stopper. I love it. Meaning that the ball, once it's in his hand, it stops there. It doesn't go anywhere else. It doesn't deflect off his hands. He doesn't drop it. Once he gets his hands on the ball, it stops moving. And I'll say this. Darius, Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Andrew Thomas, Evan Neal, you got to love these young guys. These guys take their craft seriously. Quite a few of these guys get together in the off season. They get together in the off season and they practice on their own. Daniel Jones getting his offense, at least his skills players together a few months ago, I think in Arizona, just to do, passing and receiving drills. I know the offensive lineman like Evan Neal was working with a one-on-one trainer this offseason to improve himself. We're going to talk about him in a little bit. You got to love these young players who take their craft seriously and who want to improve. And not every player does that. And we seemingly have like a team of young players that we've accumulated who do this. And that's going to lead to success. Maybe not all of them are going to want to be pro bowlers or top-notch players, but they're going to improve. And you at least have to appreciate and respect the seriousness that these young players take to the craft. So I'm really, really excited about how our offense was looking week one in training camp. And week one's kind of designed for that, where the offense is going to look good anyway. The last few days, we've had more 11-on-11s, and the defense has been shining, which is good because I was getting a little worried about the defense, even though I know I shouldn't. But like 7-7s, 7-on-7s, like that's all designed for the offense to succeed. Now you've had more 11-on-11s, and you've had like the defense being allowed to go after the quarterback and to blow up plays, and the defense has been looking a lot better. That's good. That's bad. That's also bad because we want that offensive line to improve too. The offensive line has been getting blown up a little bit, but they've also had their success. These guys are still young. We'll get to them in 1 second. Um, One of the probably the biggest story out of training camp so far, Trey Hawkins. Now let's not get too excited just yet. It is the first week of training camp, but man, Trey Hawkins deserves the recognition right now. He has worked his way up from shutting everyone down on the third teams, shutting everyone down on the second teams, and now he's been working with the first team for like the last 2 days. They had off yesterday, but I believe it was definitely either Tuesday and maybe Monday, definitely Tuesday, but maybe Monday, with Trey Hawkins, sixth round defensive back out of Old Dominion. I think he's 6'3". I think he's 6'3", 195 pounds, and an awesome athlete, very athletic. Trey Hawkins was working with worked his way up to the first team at least Tuesday and maybe Monday as well, and he was basically shutting everyone down there too. So we may really have something there. I'm slowing my roll a little bit. I don't want to get too ahead of myself. But when someone performs like that, I know they're rookies, sixth round pick out of Old Dominion. So you have to be guarded, and I am guarded, but you have to recognize it as well. Obviously, the coaches do because he's getting first team work, and he was shutting people down like Jalen Hyatt, like Paris Campbell, like Sterling Shepard. I'm not sure if he was matched up on Darren Waller. I don't remember, but nothing was really getting past this guy. It's been incredible to see. And we took two defensive backs. The other one is Gervais Owens. I think the last name is Owens, but I forgot his first name. Out of I think Houston, I believe. But he's more of a safety. He's more of a safety. But I was hoping that one of these guys could develop into being at least like a really good, backup, a really good, second tier player for the teams. Right now, Trey Hawkins may wind up being a starter. There's talk about him competing with Deonte Banks, first round pick, for that outside corner spot opposite of Adoree Jackson. And I'll get to Deonte Banks in a second. I'm not worried about Deonte Banks right now. I'll get to him in a second, but I think that's totally fine. I'm not going to give anything to anyone. You got to earn it. And if a sixth round pick is shining on the field, and your first round pick is struggling, which I wasn't surprised about. We'll get to in a second. Don't be that overly concerned with Deonte Banks. If he's more ready, if he's NFL ready, basically as the preseason goes on, if it's seemingly like he really is an NFL quality starting cornerback, then put him out there. I don't care. I don't care if it's a sixth round pick versus the first round pick. That shouldn't mean anything. It doesn't matter at all. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. I'm just saying, what we could see. But right now, Trey Hawkins has been an incredible story. I will point this out though, and I've been going back and forth with some of my fellow Giants fans. Not too hard or anything, but I've raised the concern with Trey Hawkins on a lot of his videos. There's nothing wrong with having your hand on the wide receiver. You can do that. It helps you kind of like track and follow the player a little bit. It's all good as long as you're not impeding his progress. That's all. That's all good. But I have seen him taking little tugs, nothing egregious, but little tugs on the jerseys, in quite a few of these clips. Not all, but quite a few of them. And listen, if he's doing that in actual games, yeah, some of my other fans have called it kind of like that would be a ticky tack call by the ref, maybe, but you're leaving that up if you're doing any type of tug on the jersey at all, which I've seen a few times from Trey Hawkins. You leave it open to the discretion of the ref, and you don't want that. You don't want that. If I'm a referee and I see any type of tug on a jersey, I'm probably going to call it. And especially if you're going up against good wide receivers and really good, like elite quarterbacks, quite a few who the Giants are going against this year. Those guys they tend to get those calls more often than not. So only my warning to Trey Hawkins, and obviously I'm sure Wink Martindale sees it too. Please don't tug. Trey, you've been glued to these wide receivers. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do these little tugs. And I agree. None of these have that I've seen have been egregious. It's not a big deal. But just Trey, if you're watching, and I know you are, I know you're going to watch this video, Trey. As soon as practice is over today, you get in your car, you're going to put on the New York Giants corner. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Trey. Please stop with the tugging. I see the little tugs, and you're going to leave yourself open to getting a flag by the refs. It'll be open to their interpretation, and you don't want to give them any reason to interpret anything. That's all. You've been glued to the wide receivers. Just leave it at that. But Trey Hawkins, man, Trey Hawkins, so far, just a phenomenal job in the first week. Jason Pinnock, safety. I was very, very concerned. Jason Pinnock and Bobby McClain, free agent. Jason Pinnock was here last year. He was originally, I think, drafted by the Jets a few years ago. He's still like only 24 years old. He performed well for the Giants last year, in spot areas. I was very concerned, and I still am, that the Giants did not retain um, Julian Love. I think for like $6 or $6.5 million a year. Um, they could have had him back, you know, but they let him walk, and he went to Seattle. Seattle's going to have an excellent secondary. I still, to this day, won't change my mind on that until I see Pinnock and McClain, play like Julian Love, where he's just maybe not an awesome player, but a really good player in like every aspect of the secondary. They called him duct tape for a reason. This guy, you can plug him in anywhere, and he's going to play well. Maybe he won't play like an all-pro at any position, but he plays well, and he was a very, very smart player. And like we saw when Xavier McKinney went down last year, it was Julian Love with the green dot in the defense, basically quarterbacking the defense. I wanted Julian Love to be here. He's a really good player. He's a really good versatile player. You can pretty much play him anywhere in the secondary. Oh, definitely safety and the slot. Definitely safety in the slot, both safety positions and the slot. And not really, he could play some outside corner, but he'd probably suffer there a little bit. But he's an extremely versatile player for $6.5 million a year. For like what, 2 seasons, I absolutely would have done that. And he's a smart, savvy player. He was a leader on the team. And if Xavier McKinney goes down with an injury, I wouldn't feel as worried about our safety position because we'd have Julian Love there. So I still listen. I'm not going to backtrack on that until until Jason Pinnock and McClain, Bobby McClain, prove to me otherwise. I have a lot of concerns about that second safety position. However, Jason Pinnock has been shown himself to play really. He's played really well this first week, as has Bobby McClain. Bobby McClain's looking really great in coverage. Jason Pinnock has looked well in coverage as well, and he's been coming down pretty decisively in the run game. That's good. That's good. Because Julian Love was very good in the run game. So we'll see. But I want to give a shout out to Jason Pinnock and Bobby McClain. I feel a little better about that second safety position. You know, Pinnock is he's tall, he's super athletic. I mean, he's like 90th percentile athleticism in his combine a few years ago. He is up there. And Bobby McClain's been apparently he's been very good, a very good defender in the passing game. So these are really good signs. And I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more from Pinnock and Bobby McClain. I'm not really sold, honestly. I'm not really sold on some of our other safeties. I know we took, I'm brain farting on the name right now, but the safety we took, I think in the 5th round last year, I think it was, out of Iowa. We'll see. We'll see about that guy. I'm not crazy about him, to be honest with you. I know he was known as a ball hawk, but I think he's a slow diagnoser, and that can improve. But I'm not crazy about that guy. And I'm just brain farting on the name. But second-year player out of Iowa, safety, Dane Belton. Uh, I don't know. We'll see. He's a young player, but right now, Pinnock and McLean are looking like your Julian Love fill-ins for right now. Okay, so let's talk about Deonte Banks. So I really talked about the standouts. Let's talk about Deonte Banks a little bit. Off to a slow start. As Wink Martindale or either Wink Martindale or Brian Dable said, they've been throwing everything at Deonte Banks, and rightfully so. They want to. This is how you learn. He has definitely been off to a slow start. I mean a slow start. Like basically, he hasn't been covering everyone, anyone, I should say. But it is, listen, cornerback is probably, from what I've been told, quite a bit. What I've heard, what I've learned, what I've read is that cornerback is probably the second most difficult position to translate from college football to the NFL, behind only quarterback. So even though he's taken in the first round, not everyone's going to be Sauce Gardner, who went in, who was like the number 4 pick overall. Not everybody's going to be the cornerback that Denver took like 2 or 3 years ago. I think I picked number 9. Brain farting on the name right now. Most of these guys are going to take some time. I'm glad we drafted Deonte Banks. I was totally down with that when we took him at the number 24 slot, I think it was this year. But he's going to need some time. And don't be surprised at all. He is, apparently Trey Hawkins is competing with Deonte Banks for that second outside corner spot, which is a good thing. It should go to the better player. And Deonte Banks just may not be the better player right now. He has looked really, he's been getting beat at the line of scrimmage, big time. But I have a lot of faith in Deonte Banks, and it's just probably going to take some time. And as I said the other night in our recorded episode with the Entertainer, I made the point, Corey Webster, it took him almost 3 years. I'm not saying Deonte Banks is going to take 3 years, but I'm just trying to throw some caveat out there just to keep in mind. Corey Webster was drafted in 2005 in the second round, and it wasn't until the end of the 2007 season, almost 3 years, where it all clicked, and he wound up being an integral part in that year's Super Bowl run, and for the next few years, when he was on the 2011 Super Bowl team as well. And Corey Webster developed into being an excellent, underrated, but excellent cornerback. So just give Deonte Banks some time. I'm not saying 3 years. I'm just saying give him some time. But you got to believe in his athleticism and in his skill set and his apparently high football IQ. And I believe in the coaching on this team. So, so that's it on Deonte Banks for right now. Let's see how it goes the rest of camp. Cordell Flott, I'm really excited about this guy. I think I thought he really shined last year, and limited times, the limited snaps that he had, I thought he really shined. So far in the first week, there was some good, there was some bad with Cordell Flott. It's okay, second-year player. He was known to be really raw when he was drafted out of LSU in the 3rd round last year, but he put on, he looked solid. He was like a really kind of like a very thin player, which he was. But he's put on like something like 15 pounds of muscle. Hopefully that doesn't mess him up. But I get worried about these thin guys who bulk up a lot, and those type of guys, the thin guys who bulk up, put on a lot of muscle, I think wind up having like a lot of knee injuries. But I think he looks really, really good. He looks really solid. And but there's been some good, some bad. I've seen some good with Cordell Flott, and some bad as well, I guess. But right now, there's a possibility. Our starting 3 corners are going to be Adoree Jackson, Trey Hawkins, and Cordell Flott in the slot. Flott in the slot. You got to love that. So we'll see. I mean, man, Deonte Banks, I mean, if he comes along and it starts progressing this preseason, this training camp and preseason, we could have some really good quality depth in the secondary. It would be great to see. Okay, let's talk about offensive line a little bit, and then we'll end the video here. I don't want to go too long. Let me just wet my whistle. Okay, the biggest question mark for this offensive line, the key factor in the offensive line. Obviously, it's not Andrew Thomas. This guy got he got a huge contract, his second contract, for a reason. He's made with the Giants up through at least 2029 for a reason, because he is a top like 3 or 5 left tackle in the NFL. We don't have to worry about Andrew Thomas. The key this season on the offensive line and to a lot of success for this offense to really, really take a good, consistent step forward. I love the weapons we've added. But if we're going to be a really good, consistent offense, like a constant threat, we need Evan Neal, our second-year right tackle, to take a big step forward. I'm not saying he's got to be a Pro Bowler at the end of this year. He's got to look a lot better than last year in his rookie year. And I believe last year he was like the worst graded offensive tackle in the entire league, and he was the number 7 pick. I forgot what that's according to. Maybe it's PFF, maybe it's some of the scoring system, but I don't doubt it, and I'm not going to argue that. He didn't look well at all last year. He was also dealing with injuries. And it's also someone else pointed out recently, I forgot who it was, I'd like to give him credit. This is actually the first time in many, many years that Evan Neal is starting the same position for a second year in a row. I think at Alabama, I think his rookie year, he was a guard. His second year, he was a right tackle, I believe. And then it was his third year, he was a left tackle. So last year he was right tackle, this year right tackle. And I know Evan Neal was working with a personal trainer this offseason. I forgot who it was, a former NFL player, on improving himself. The main thing with Evan Neal is his footwork. That is the main thing. His footwork was a mess. It was a mess last year. And the guy was always big. He was always athletic for a big man, very strong. The problem with Evan Neal was his footwork. Now he's got some handwork to, when to do, when to punch, and he's got handwork to work on. The key thing is his footwork. There's been positives out of this first week out of camp. Evan Neal has gotten beaten a few times. Not surprised by that, but he's also held his own a few times. And I'm talking about the passing game here. The running game, I'm not concerned about Evan Neal. He's a road grader in the running game. He did show off very well in the run game last year. The key thing, obviously, here is pass protection we're talking about, and he did. He looked better. His footwork did look better this year. A lot of it's a timing thing too, and just what I love is that this dude like Andrew Thomas, takes his craft so seriously that he did work in the offseason on his own in improving it. He lost some weight as well. And he's a hard worker. He's a very smart young guy and a very good high football IQ, apparently. I believe in this guy. I think he's going to get better and better. I don't know if he's ever going to be as good as Andrew Thomas. I always felt like Andrew Thomas was better coming out of college than Evan Neal anyway. We don't need him to be Andrew Thomas. Like I said, I don't need him to be a Pro Bowler. I just want him to be a very good right tackle for the next 10 to 12 years where I could put him out there and not have to worry about it. But listen, he's looked better this camp, but definitely has room for a lot more improvement, and I think we're going to see that. But with Evan Neal, it's all about the footwork. Okay, Bredesen and Azudu, two of the guys who are competing for at least one of the guard spots, and these two guys, there's an outside chance that they're both the starting guards. I don't know. I think Gleniski, the veteran, is probably still going to start at right guard. I assume that's what's going to happen. But I'd love to see actually both of these guys, Bredesen and Azudu, take those two guard positions. But right now, they're probably both fighting it out for the starting left guard position. Bredesen was the starting left guard last year, and he was pretty good. He wasn't great. The offensive line last year as a whole had like one of the worst grades. It was like 32nd or 30th, something like that, 28th. I think to many of us, including myself, the offensive line looked better to the eye tests. And it was. I think most of that actually had to do with Daniel Jones's dramatically improved pocket awareness and his pocket awareness. And it was dramatically improved last year. But the offensive line, to my eye test, did look better, whatever the reasons were. Bredesen, I thought was pretty solid last year. Not that there can't be improvement by him or a better left guard. Maybe Azudu. We'll see who wins that competition. But I thought Bredesen he was serviceable last year. He wasn't bad. Again, that position, could be improved, and maybe that will be Bredesen improving himself. He's still a somewhat young player as well. He was only drafted a few years ago. Josh Azudu, second-year guard out of UNC. Very, very strong dude and super athletic. The Giants took him at the back end of the third round last year for a reason. We'll see if that works out in the long term, but I am super pumped by Azudu. And remember, Azudu had issues last year too with injuries, and he had some spot starts. He looked in the run game. Again, the run game, he looked really good. He was another road grader. Again, for these young guys, the problem is pass protection. And but I like Josh Izudo. I believe in this guy as well, as long as he's healthy. He had he was injured quite a few times last year. There was also the end of the year. I don't think he really played because he had, I think, a serious neck injury where it had at the time it had the potential to be a long-term neck injury, which obviously would mean his NFL career is going to come to an end. I don't know what it was. I don't think those details were ever revealed, but it looks like everything's okay with Izudu because here he is. But I'm really, really pumped. I think Izudu has a higher ceiling than Bredesen. Man, I'll tell you, if we can get Josh Izudu up and running as the starting left guard this year, and if we have Bredesen, even if Bredesen doesn't take the starting right guard position away from Gleniski, Bredesen is really good depth. And to be able to say as a Giants fan that this offensive line may have depth, at least some quality depth, at least at some positions, is incredible. We haven't been able to say that in probably like 15 years, in terms of having like quality young depth backing up some of the guys that we have. And if Bredesen doesn't start, if he loses out to Izudu on the left side and Gleniski on the right side, I am really, really comfortable and happy with Bredesen as a backup guard and center because Bredesen was taking snaps too on this preseason and the offseason at center. And I think he might have played some center last year as well. So I don't want him to be the center. Don't get me wrong, but I think Bredesen right now is bringing a lot of value to this team, to this offensive line. But man, I'll tell you, the key thing is Evan Neal. He's got to take a nice step forward. And again, not Pro Bowl, but a nice step forward. He's got to be very, very improved over last year. And I think he will, over the course of this season, will get better and better and better. I don't necessarily think he's going to be week one against Dallas. He's going to be, lights out right tackle. But I think he's going to improve quite a bit as the season goes on. And that's what we need from him. John Michael Schmitz, welcome to the NFL, John Michael Schmitz. I don't know if you've seen that video clip of him. I think it was like first snap one-on-one against Dexter Lawrence. And Dexter, man, I mean, he is huge. John Michael Schmitz is a big dude. Dexter Lawrence is friggin' huge compared to him. He made JMS look like a kid. And right off the snap, he had JMS on skates there the first few steps. But then JMS found his balance, which he's known for, and kind of held his own against Dexter. And then after that, I know JMS. I didn't see too many clips on JMS. I'm just going off of what I've read, and apparently JMS he's done well. He struggled a little bit against Dexter and against Dexter Lawrence and Leo Williams, but to be expected. But I think overall, apparently, the news on JMS out of camp first week has been positive. So, man, if you can get Evan Neal, that's the key thing. I think the guard positions are going to figure themselves out just fine. I really, really do. The key thing is getting Evan Neal up to speed, and if JMS can pretty much be a plug and play center, he will be a rookie. I'm not expecting Pro Bowl, but pretty much plug and play where he can be adequate and then get better as the season goes along. This offensive line is going to take huge strides. So anyway, guys, that's it. I'm pretty much out of here. I just got to say something real quick to my wife as she's about to leave. Give me 5 seconds. Okay, guys, I had to say I love you to my wife and wish her a good day. But anyway, I'm going to wrap up the show right here. Just real quick before I go, and I've got a new outro video too. So, by the way, Dwight Peebles. I forgot Dwight's Twitter handle off the top of my head, but if you go to my Twitter page, you'll see that I've given a shout out to Dwight Peebles, who created my outro and my intro and my outro for my show. He did a wonderful job. He didn't charge me much. I'm not going to say the fee in case he wants to charge other people a little more or a little less. I'm going to say it was peanuts what he charged me for both my intro and my outro. So I want to if you want any video work done at all, for your podcast, for your YouTube channel, check out Dwight Peebles. I don't have his Twitter handle off the top of my head, but on my Twitter page, you will find his Twitter handle in my feed. Check him out. It was inexpensive. He did a phenomenal job with both my intro and outro video for this program. It's been fantastic. But before I go, if you can, please, Twitter handles for me and most of my compadres here at Tulsa Titles and the CFB Nation. Give us all a follow. Greatly appreciate it. And a friendly reminder, please hit that like button, subscribe, hit that bell, and give us that 5-star Apple review. And Shay, if you're still there, buddy, good morning to you, man. Shay is the host of our Ramsaholic weekly LA Rams podcast, and it is phenomenal. I think his new episode, released yesterday. So check out Shay. Again, he hosts our Rams show every week here at Toilets and Titles, or I should say at the T2T Network. And Shay, good morning, my friend, if you're still out there, buddy. All right, guys, I'm out of here. This is Joe. I'll see you next Wednesday, and let me push the right button for my new great outro. Take care, everybody. Let me get rid of that banner, too. Boom, boom. Now I can do my wonderful outro. Take care. Peace.